What if legends could fly? In the misty mountains and ancient forests of Romania, that question comes alive. In wings that once inspired kings, poets, and myths older than time itself. Here, in the land of the Carpathian Mountains, beauty doesn't whisper, it soars. From golden fields to dark pine valleys, Romania is one of Europe's last true wild frontiers, home to eagles that rule the sky, storks that guard forgotten rivers, and songbirds whose voices echo across endless meadows. Every wing beat tells a story of survival, love, and freedom, woven through centuries of untouched nature, and tucked among its castles and mountain lakes are some of the rarest and most majestic birds in all of Europe. Creatures so breathtaking, they seem born from fairy tales rather than forests. From the powerful white-tailed eagle to the mysterious black stork, these birds don't just live here, they define it. So spread your wings and join us on this journey through Romania's wild heart, where we'll meet 20 rare and majestic birds you won't believe exist. Which one do you think will steal the show? Tell us in the comments. Your favorite might just surprise you. They call it the king of the wetlands. And when you see one soaring above Romania's vast Danube Delta, you understand why. The white-tailed eagle doesn't just fly, it commands the sky. With a wingspan stretching nearly 8 feet, it's one of Europe's largest birds of prey. From below, you see broad, powerful wings cutting through the wind. From above, it sees everything. Rivers twisting like silver snakes, flocks of ducks scattering beneath its shadow. Its white tail flashes like a royal banner in the light, a signal that the apex has arrived. This eagle isn't loud, but its presence changes the air. It perches on tall poplars, scanning the water with pale, piercing eyes. A single dive, smooth, silent, deliberate, and it snatches a fish in its talons with perfect precision. No struggle, no wasted motion, just mastery. In Romania, the white-tailed eagle's story is one of return. Once nearly gone from Europe, poisoned and hunted, it has made an astonishing comeback thanks to decades of protection. Today, the Danube Delta holds one of the continent's strongest populations, a living symbol of what nature can recover when we simply give it space to breathe. But power isn't the only thing that makes this bird extraordinary. Here's a fact few people know. Eagle pairs mate for life, building enormous nests that they return to year after year, sometimes for decades. Some nests weigh more than a refrigerator, passed down like heirlooms of devotion and survival. When dawn rises over the delta and mist curls above the water, you might see 2 of them soaring together. Wings synchronized, circling higher with every beat. It's not just flight, it's a dance of trust, a story written across the sky. The white-tailed eagle is proof that wild majesty still exists. You just have to look where sky meets water. So, if you saw one soaring over you right now, would you feel small or simply amazed to share the same sky? If there's one bird that looks like it belongs to another age, something ancient, almost prehistoric, it's the Dalmatian pelican. Imagine a creature with wings wider than a grown man is tall, gliding across a misty Romanian lake like a drifting cloud of silver. It's not just a bird, it's a ghost of evolution. Elegant, enormous, and unmistakably alive. Found across the Danube Delta in Romania's great wetlands, the Dalmatian pelican is among the largest flying birds in the world. It can weigh more than 30 pounds and still soar effortlessly, its vast wings moving in slow, graceful beats that seem to ignore gravity. Up close, it's a portrait of contrasts. Curly white feathers that shimmer like frost, piercing orange eyes in that incredible pouch. Glowing bright red during breeding season, its beauty and power combined into something that feels both ancient and royal. You'll often see a group of pelicans drifting together at dawn, silent except for the faint ripple of water beneath them. Then suddenly one takes off, and the whole flock follows, wings brushing the surface, reflections flashing beneath like white fire. It's one of those sights that stays with you long after the moment passes. But here's the twist. Despite its size and strength, the Dalmatian pelican is surprisingly delicate. It's extremely sensitive to human disturbance, pollution, and habitat loss. For years, its populations declined, disappearing from many European wetlands. Yet in places like Romania, careful protection and clean water initiatives have brought it back, a rare conservation success story. And here's a fun fact. Unlike other birds, pelicans don't dive from the air. They cooperate, working in groups, herding fish toward the shallows, before scooping them up with perfect precision. It's teamwork, not power, that makes them thrive. At sunset, when the sky burns orange and the lakes turn to mirrors, the Dalmatian pelican drifts quietly once more, wings folded, face turned toward the light. It feels less like watching an animal and more like witnessing time itself remembering how to fly. So tell me, if you saw one glide past in that golden glow, would you reach for your camera or just stand there, breathless, letting the moment take you? If the white stork is a symbol of hope and new beginnings, then the black stork is its secretive, mysterious twin, the one that prefers silence to ceremony. You won't find it nesting on rooftops or chimneys. Number. This stork hides deep in the heart of Romania's untouched forests, where rivers wind through mossy canopies and human footsteps rarely reach. With glossy black feathers that shimmer with green and purple under sunlight, it's one of the most striking sights in Europe. If you're lucky enough to see one at all, when it spreads its wings nearly 7 feet across, the black glows with oil-slick colors, while its long red beak gleams like a brush dipped in sunset. It moves through the air with silent grace, a phantom gliding over mirror-still water. Unlike its noisy white cousins, the black stork lives a life of solitude. It feeds on fish, frogs, and insects, stalking streams and shaded wetlands with patience and precision. Its call is rare, a faint hiss or soft clatter of the beak, as if even its voice has been trained to respect the silence of the forest. Romania is one of the last strongholds of this elusive species. While many European populations have vanished due to deforestation and disturbance, here, the wild Carpathians still offer sanctuary. Local conservationists call it the forest ghost, and for good reason. Months of research can pass without a single confirmed sighting. But every time it appears, it reminds us that mystery still lives within Europe's borders. Here's a fun fact. Black storks are masters of stealth migration. They travel thousands of miles between Europe and Africa, often alone, navigating with uncanny precision. No flocks, no guides, just instinct older than history itself. At dusk, when the last light fades and the forest turns to shadow, the black stork returns to its hidden nest high in an ancient oak. No announcement, no song, only silence and the whisper of wings. In a world that never stops talking, this bird's quiet dignity feels almost holy. Maybe that's why seeing one isn't just a moment, it's a memory that follows you long after the forest goes dark. If birds had beauty contests, this one would win, and then immediately trip on its own feathers. Meet the great bustard, one of the heaviest flying birds on Earth and one of Europe's strangest dancers. Standing almost 4 feet tall and weighing up to 40 pounds, the great bustard looks like a cross between a turkey, a goose, and a feathered tank. But don't let the bulk fool you. This bird can fly, and when it does, the sight is unforgettable. Wide bronze wings lift it slowly into the sky, and the air itself seems to make room for its power. But the real show happens on the ground. During spring, males gather on Romania's open plains and turn into walking fireworks. They puff up their chests, twist their necks, and fan out their feathers until they look like enormous feathered flowers. Then they strut, spin, and shake, trying to impress females watching from a distance with the calm expression of someone pretending not to care. It's like a mix between a royal parade and a comedy routine. The bustard's courtship dance is so elaborate that biologists call it one of nature's most dramatic mating displays. And here's the twist. The more ridiculous he looks, the better his chances. Females prefer males who can inflate their white chest feathers the biggest and wobble the longest without falling over. Beauty, apparently, is exhausting work. Despite their strength, great bustards are surprisingly vulnerable. They need vast, quiet grasslands to survive, the same spaces that modern agriculture keeps shrinking. Romania's open steppes and plains still offer refuge to a few flocks, and spotting them feels like stepping into an older Europe, where wild things still ruled the horizon. Fun fact, great bustards are the heaviest birds capable of flight, but only barely. Some males can weigh as much as a medium-sized dog, making every takeoff look like a slow-motion miracle. So if you ever see a great bustard rise above the golden fields of Romania, pause for a moment. You're not just watching a bird take flight, you're watching gravity lose and nature laugh in its face. There's a sound in the Romanian sky that you don't just hear, you feel. A haunting, echoing call that rolls across the wetlands like music from another world. It's the voice of the common crane, one of nature's oldest travelers and most graceful dancers. Standing nearly 4 feet tall with long black legs and soft gray plumage, the crane carries itself with quiet dignity. Its movements are slow and deliberate, every step balanced, every turn elegant. When you see one walking through the mist at sunrise, it looks less like a bird and more like a thought made visible. But when the season changes and the air cools, something magical happens. Cranes gather in great flocks, thousands strong, circling high above the fields. Their wings beat in rhythm, forming a perfect V in the sky. And then, as if rehearsed for centuries, they begin to sing, a deep, rolling trumpet that echoes through the clouds. It's their migration anthem, guiding them across continents from the wetlands of Romania to the plains of Africa. The common crane is one of the oldest symbols of loyalty and balance. Pairs mate for life, performing synchronized dances that are equal parts courtship and celebration. They leap, bow, and toss grass into the air. Pure joy expressed in motion. And what's remarkable is that they dance not just to attract mates, but seemingly for the sheer love of movement itself. Here's a fun fact. Crane fossils dating back over 10 million years have been found, meaning that long before humans built cities or named continents, these same voices were already echoing over Europe. They are living time travelers carrying the sound of the ancient world. In Romania, when locals see cranes flying south in autumn, they still pause to look up. It's more than migration. It's a reminder of rhythm, of connection, of life that always finds its way home. So the next time you hear that faraway call cutting through the cool air, don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your heart, because the common crane isn't just passing by. It's carrying a piece of eternity on its wings. What's the most dazzling blue you've ever seen? Sky? Ocean? Forget all that. The European roller outshines them both. When sunlight hits its feathers, it doesn't just reflect color, it radiates it. This bird looks like it was painted by the sky itself. The roller is a summer visitor to Romania, gliding over open meadows and farmlands in bursts of turquoise, teal, and chestnut brown. It's a bird that refuses to blend in. Even from a distance, you can spot that electric blue flashing against the green of the fields, a living gemstone darting between trees. But it's not just beautiful, it's bold. The roller gets its name from its wild flight displays, dives, twists, and somersaults performed high above the ground. It rolls through the air like a stunt pilot showing off after takeoff, each move sharper and more daring than the last. And the funny thing? It's not showing off for us. It's doing it for love. Those aerial acrobatics are part of its courtship ritual, a dazzling show of strength, skill, and sheer charisma. When the male finally lands beside his chosen mate, he offers a small insect or lizard as a gift, bowing politely like a knight at court. And if she accepts, the sky becomes their ballroom. Here's a fun fact. The European roller is one of the few birds with bright blue pigment and structural color. That means part of its color is chemical, but part is pure physics. Light bouncing in microscopic feather layers to create that impossible glow. In short, the bird is literally built to shine. Sadly, like many migratory species, its numbers have dropped due to habitat loss and pesticides. But in Romania, where wide-open farmlands still stretch beneath endless skies, the roller remains a symbol of color, freedom, and flight. When you see one dive through the sunlight, tumbling like a sapphire in motion, you can't help but smile. because for a few seconds the world feels lighter, as if joy itself learned how to fly. If rainbows had feathers, this would be the result. The European bee-eater isn't just colorful, it's a masterpiece in motion, a flying brushstroke painted by summer. Its body glows with chestnut, turquoise, yellow, and emerald. Its wings shimmer like stained glass when it darts through the air, and that elegant black eye stripe gives it the look of a masked acrobat. But don't be fooled by its beauty. This bird is a precision hunter. The bee-eater lives for the chase. High above Romania's meadows and riverbanks, it swoops and twists with incredible agility, catching insects mid-air with a snap of its slender beak. Dragonflies, wasps, bumblebees, all fair game. It's like watching an aerial ballet performed at lightning speed. Each dive, each curve of the wings is perfectly timed, a blend of instinct and art. And here's the clever part. Before eating a bee, it smacks it against a branch to remove the stinger, because even beauty has brains. That quick move saves its life hundreds of times each season. No wonder locals sometimes call it the sky's little warrior. During breeding season, bee-eaters form colonies along sandy riverbanks, digging tunnels up to 3 feet deep into the earth. Each burrow becomes a tiny home, filled with soft calls, rustling wings, and the occasional buzzing snack being delivered to hungry chicks. It's a neighborhood full of color and sound. At sunset, the air rings with gentle trills as dozens of them swoop together, turning the sky into a living kaleidoscope. Here's a fun fact. Bee-eaters migrate thousands of miles each year, traveling from Europe all the way to sub-Saharan Africa. Their bright colors might look fragile, but they're built for endurance. For these tiny travelers, the sky is both home and highway. When you see one glide over the Danube, wings catching the light, you realize it's not just a bird, it's joy in flight. Because some creatures don't just live in color, they are color. If sunlight could sing, it would sound like this. The Eurasian golden oriole isn't just a bird, it's a melody wearing feathers. When it calls from the treetops, it feels like the forest itself just learned a new song. The male is pure brilliance, bright yellow and black, glowing like a drop of sunshine against the green canopy. The female is softer, olive and gold, blending perfectly into the leaves. But when he sings, she listens, and so does everyone else. Its song is smooth, flute-like, and impossibly beautiful. 2 notes rising and falling, echoing through the trees like a gentle whistle carried by the wind. In Romania's orchards and river valleys, the first oriole call marks the arrival of summer. Farmers stop for a moment to listen. Children look up, trying to spot that flash of gold weaving through the branches. The oriole's movements are as graceful as its voice. It hops between leaves, searching for insects and ripe cherries, always alert but never hurried. Sometimes all you see is a golden blur disappearing into the green. There 1 second, gone the next, like sunlight slipping through your fingers. Here's a fun fact. The golden oriole is one of Europe's most talented mimics. It can imitate other birds' songs, even frogs and mechanical sounds, blending them into its own tune. Each bird's song is slightly different, passed down and reshaped like a folk melody over generations. No 2 orioles sound exactly alike. Each one is a composer of its own summer symphony. When evening falls and the fields grow quiet except for that clear, echoing whistle, you can't help but pause. There's something deeply human in that sound, something ancient and hopeful. The Eurasian golden oriole reminds us that not all beauty is meant to be seen. Some of it drifts through the air, invisible, unforgettable, a golden voice carried by the wind. So tell me, if you could capture just one sound of summer forever, would it be this one? If joy had feathers, it would look like this. Tiny, round, and full of energy. The Eurasian blue tit may be one of Europe's smallest birds, but it's also one of its boldest. This little ball of blue and yellow is like a spark of life that never burns out. Perched among the oak trees and gardens of Romania, the blue tit is always in motion, hopping, fluttering, and hanging upside down from twigs like it forgot what gravity is for. Its head shines with bright sapphire blue, its chest glows golden yellow, and a small black eye stripe gives it the expression of permanent curiosity. It's not just cute, it's unstoppable. Blue tits are brilliant problem solvers. They've been seen unscrewing milk bottle caps, raiding feeders with clever teamwork, and even memorizing human routines to show up exactly when breakfast is served. In a forest full of hunters and giants, this bird survives with pure wit. You'll often hear them before you see them, a cheerful series of chirps and trills rising and falling like laughter. They use dozens of different calls to communicate everything from danger to, "Hey, I found food." In a way, it's like their own little language, fast, bright, and full of personality. Here's a fun fact. During cold Romanian winters, blue tits weigh less than a ping pong ball, but survive freezing nights by fluffing their feathers into perfect insulation bubbles. They can lose a third of their body weight overnight and still wake up ready to sing. Talk about resilience in a tiny package. Despite their size, they're fearless. If a larger bird invades their space, they'll dive, yell, and even peck to defend their nest. And that nest, a soft cup made from moss, fur, and feathers, so perfect that it could fit in the palm of your hand. The Eurasian blue tit proves that greatness doesn't always need grandeur. Sometimes it's just a spark, a flash of color, a burst of song, a heartbeat of courage, reminding us that small doesn't mean insignificant, it means unstoppable. He's the everyman of the bird world, charming, reliable, and always the first to sing in the morning. Meet the common chaffinch, a bird so familiar across Romania that it almost feels like part of the landscape itself. But don't let that common fool you. This little songbird has a voice that could headline any forest concert. The male chaffinch is dressed like a gentleman, rosy chest, gray-blue head, and crisp white wing bars that flash when he flies. The female, more subtle in her browns, prefers elegance in simplicity. Together, they're the power couple of Europe's woodlands. At dawn, while most of the forest is still waking up, the chaffinch starts his show. His song is fast, bright, and bursting with energy, a mix of notes that rises and falls like a roller coaster of sound. Each male has his own version of the tune, and if another chaffinch dares to sing nearby, it quickly turns into a battle of the bands. The forest becomes their stage and every branch a front row seat. But beyond the charm, there's genius. Chaffinches have one of the most studied bird songs in science. Researchers discovered that young males learn their songs like human kids learn language, by listening, practicing, and improvising. In fact, some even have regional accents, so a chaffinch from Transylvania might sound slightly different from one near the Danube. Here's a fun fact. The name Coelebs means bachelor in Latin. Why? Because early naturalists in northern Europe noticed males stayed behind during winter while the females migrated south. A forest full of singing bachelors. Now that's dedication. They're adaptable too. From mountain beach forests to city parks, the chaffinch fits anywhere there's a tree and a song to sing. Always busy, always cheerful, a little feathered optimist in a world that could use more of them. So next time you walk through a Romanian woodland and hear that bright, spiraling tune, stop for a second. That's not just background music. That's the common chaffinch singing his heart out to remind you that joy doesn't need an audience. It just needs a reason. What if a bird could weave like an artist and build like an engineer? Meet the Eurasian penduline tit, one of nature's finest architects, a tiny creature with a talent that would make any designer jealous. You'll find it along Romania's quiet lakes and reed-filled rivers, hanging upside down from willow branches, working tirelessly on a masterpiece. Its nest looks like a miniature pouch, soft, round, and suspended from a single twig, swaying gently in the breeze. Each one is hand-woven from plant fibers, cattail fluff, and spider silk, stitched so tightly that rain can't get in and predators can't get through. It's not just a nest. It's a cradle, a fortress, and a work of art. The penduline tit builds its home with astonishing precision. It weaves loops, knots, and layers, shaping it with its body like a sculptor forming clay. When finished, it leaves a small entrance hole near the top. And here's the twist. It creates a false entrance below it, a clever decoy to fool snakes and intruders. Even in a world full of danger, this little bird builds beauty and safety at the same time. Males often start several nests at once, hoping to attract a mate by showing off their construction skills. If the female approves, she moves in, but if not, she flies off and the male starts again, undeterred. Persistence is the secret blueprint. Here's a fun fact. The penduline tit's nest can take up to 3 weeks to complete, with thousands of stitches made using nothing but its beak. Some locals call it the floating glove, because it looks like a mitten hanging delicately over the water. And when the wind passes through the reeds, dozens of these soft gray nests can sway together, like ornaments on nature's own Christmas tree. Watching one at work is humbling. It reminds us that art doesn't need fame. It just needs purpose. Every thread, every movement is driven by instinct and love. So next time you see a small bird dangling upside down, carrying a tuft of fluff bigger than itself, stop and look closer. You might just be watching one of nature's finest builders, the Eurasian penduline tit, sowing life into the wind. If you've ever walked through a Romanian reed bed and heard a sharp metallic ping, ping, echoing over the water, congratulations, you've just been noticed by one of the cutest birds in Europe. Meet the bearded reedling, a tiny ball of energy that somehow manages to look both adorable and distinguished at the same time. Despite its name, it's not really bearded. The male just sports 2 neat black mustache stripes that run down from his bill like an old-fashioned gentleman. Imagine a bird that's part explorer, part cartoon character. His feathers shimmer with soft orange, blue-gray, and cream, blending perfectly with the golden reeds. The female skips the mustache but keeps the charm, warm caramel tones and a quick, curious gaze. These birds live deep within Romania's wetlands, where tall reeds sway like waves and dragonflies skim the air. They spend most of their time hopping acrobatically through the stems, clinging sideways or even upside down, searching for insects and seeds. Their constant chatter, those signature ping calls, helps them keep track of one another in the maze of reeds. It's like a tiny bird version of walkie-talkies. I'm here, ping. Me too, ping. Here's a fun twist. The bearded reedling changes its diet with the seasons. In summer, it feasts on insects, but when winter arrives, it switches to seeds. To handle that change, it actually grows longer intestines to digest the tougher food. Yes, it literally redesigns its own body to survive the cold. Now that's adaptation in action. They also have a funny habit of gathering into small flocks during chilly mornings, huddling together for warmth like fuzzy little marshmallows with tails. And when sunlight hits the frost-covered reeds, the whole flock lights up like living sparks. The bearded reedling may be tiny, but its world is vast, a golden ocean of reeds, songs, and echoes. It reminds us that beauty isn't always found in mountains or skies. Sometimes it hums quietly among the cattails, calling out to anyone who's still listening. At first glance, the lake looks still, mirror flat, silent, empty. Then from the corner of your eye, a ripple, and suddenly a flash of red and gold breaks the water. That's the black-necked grebe, one of the most beautiful and mysterious water birds in Romania. It's not a large bird, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in elegance. In breeding plumage, its glossy black head is crowned with golden ear tufts that flare out like tiny flames, while its eyes burn crimson red, bright, intense, almost hypnotic. It looks less like a bird and more like a spark come to life. The grebe's world is a quiet one. Shallow lakes, reed-fringed ponds, and secret wetlands where reflections and reality blend together. It spends nearly its entire life on water, swimming with perfect control, diving gracefully, then reappearing yards away with a silvery fish in its bill. On land, it's awkward and clumsy, but in the water, it's pure perfection, a dancer made of liquid light. During spring, pairs perform courtship rituals that feel like a ballet. They face each other, rise upright on the water, and shake their heads in rhythm. A mirror dance, both tender and wild. It's one of the most breathtaking displays in the bird world, a love story told entirely without words. Here's a fun fact. The black-necked grebe has one of the most extreme migrations of any bird its size. After breeding, it completely molts all its feathers at once, becoming flightless for several weeks. Then when new feathers grow in, it travels thousands of miles to wintering grounds, often across deserts and mountains. From still lakes to endless skies, this tiny traveler crosses worlds most humans never see. As dusk falls on Romania's wetlands, the water darkens, the air cools, and the grebe's golden tufts fade into the reflection of stars. It slips beneath the surface, vanishing without a sound, leaving only ripples and wonder behind. The black-necked grebe reminds us that even in silence, beauty speaks, softly, perfectly, and only to those who stop long enough to listen. They say good things come in small packages, and this bird proves it beyond a doubt. Meet the Pygmy cormorant, the tiniest member of Europe's cormorant family and one of the quiet heroes of Romania's wetlands. At first glance, you might mistake it for a crow taking a swim, dark, sleek, and low to the water. But look closer and you'll see something special. Its feathers shimmer with bronze and deep blue under the sun, and when it dives, it disappears so smoothly, it's like the lake itself swallowed it whole. Then a few seconds later, it pops up yards away, a little fish glinting in its bill, and a smug look that says, "Easy." Unlike its larger cousins, the pygmy cormorant doesn't hunt alone. It works in small groups, darting and diving together, herding fish into tight corners before striking. It's silent teamwork at its best. No drama, no show, just perfect coordination. Romania's Danube Delta is one of the best places on Earth to see them. There they perch on fallen branches, spreading their wings wide to dry. A classic cormorant pose. But because they're smaller, their wings shimmer like silk fans, catching the light in soft ripples. They look less like predators and more like monks meditating after a long day of fishing. Here's a fun fact. The pygmy cormorant was once near extinction across Europe. Habitat loss and hunting almost wiped them out. But Romania's wetlands gave them refuge, and now this country shelters one of the world's largest populations. From near silence to survival, a comeback story written in feathers. When the sun sets and the marshes turn gold, these little divers gather together, their silhouettes forming dark clusters against the light. They're small, yes, but they belong completely. No grand display, no song, just purpose. The pygmy cormorant reminds us that size doesn't measure significance. Sometimes the quietest lives ripple the biggest impact, proof that even the smallest wings can still make the water move. High in the stony slopes of Romania's Carpathian Mountains, where the wind hums like an old song and the grass clings to the cliffs, lives a bird that defines quiet resilience, the rock partridge. It doesn't dazzle with color or soar with grace. It thrives by simply being tougher than everything around it. With sandy gray plumage streaked in chestnut and white, it blends so perfectly with the rocky hillsides that you could walk right past a dozen of them and never know. Only when one suddenly bursts from the stones in a blur of wings and startled squawks do you realize how alive the mountain really is. They're built for this terrain. Strong legs, low bodies, and an instinct that reads every crevice like a map. The rock partridge is a master of invisibility. It spends its days foraging quietly among scrub and wild thyme, feeding on seeds, berries, and the occasional insect. When danger comes, usually a fox or golden eagle, it doesn't run far. It just freezes, trusting its camouflage and its silence. It's not cowardice. It's strategy perfected by centuries of mountain living. But here's the twist. For all their shyness, these birds are romantics. In spring, males call from high rocks with deep, echoing notes that bounce across the valleys. It's not exactly a love song, more like a proud announcement. I survived another winter. Who's with me? And when a pair forms, they stay close, raising their chicks in the safety of rocky crevices where even the wind hesitates to go. Here's a fun fact. Rock partridges can climb better than they can fly. They'll run up steep slopes that would leave a goat impressed, flapping only when absolutely necessary. In the Carpathians, flight is optional. Endurance is everything. At dusk, when mist curls between the peaks and the sky burns orange, you might spot one perched on a boulder, perfectly still. It doesn't need applause or attention, it just is. Wild, quiet, and exactly where it belongs. The rock partridge reminds us that beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's carved in stone, whispered by wind and carried by wings that never quit. Don't be fooled by the size. Behind those cute feathers and soft eyes hides one of the most ruthless little hunters in Europe. Meet the red-backed shrike, a bird so small it could sit in your hand, but with the soul of a serial killer. At first glance, it looks harmless enough. Rosy underparts, gray head, and a neat black bandit mask across its eyes. You might even think it's adorable, but spend a little time watching, and you'll see why locals once called it the butcher bird. The shrike's hunting style is as brutal as it is efficient. It sits perched on a thorny branch or fence post, scanning the fields for movement. Then, in a lightning-fast dive, it snatches up beetles, lizards, even small birds. And instead of eating right away, it impales its prey on sharp thorns or barbed wire, a gruesome pantry for later. To it, a thorn bush isn't just a plant, it's a refrigerator. But here's the strange thing. Despite its violent habits, the shrike is incredibly meticulous. It arranges its larder by size and freshness, sometimes revisiting the same spot for weeks. It's not savagery, it's survival, honed by instinct and patience. In Romania, the red-backed shrike is a familiar sight in open meadows and farmlands, where it perches like a tiny sentinel. Farmers once considered it a friend, a natural pest controller that kept the insect population in check. And honestly, it's hard not to admire the boldness. This is a bird that attacks wasps, wins, and then proudly displays the trophy. Here's a fun fact. During migration, shrikes travel thousands of miles to Africa, navigating deserts and storms, all while weighing less than 2 ounces. They may look delicate, but they're built from pure determination. At dusk, when the fields glow gold and the air grows still, you might spot one on a fence post silhouetted against the sky. It sits motionless, eyes sharp, waiting for its next move. Beautiful, deadly, perfectly balanced. The red-backed shrike reminds us that even in the prettiest wings, nature hides a hint of wild. And that survival in the end is just another kind of art. Deep in the dark Romanian forest, there's a sound that echoes like a heartbeat. Thok, thok, thok. Not a machine, not a drum. It's the work of the black woodpecker, the ghost carpenter of Europe's old-growth woods. You'll never forget your first sight of one. It's huge, crow-sized, jet black, with a fiery red crest that looks like it's been dipped in paint. When it lands on a pine trunk and cocks its head to listen, the forest seems to hold its breath. Then, bam! The sound reverberates through the trees like a living echo. The black woodpecker is nature's lumberjack, an engineer rolled into one. Its skull is built like shock-absorbing armor, allowing it to hammer wood up to 20 times per second without hurting its brain. Each strike carves deep, clean holes in tree trunks, not just for food, but for future life. After it moves on, owls, squirrels, and bats often move into the abandoned nest holes. One bird, many homes, a quiet builder of ecosystems. It feeds mostly on ants, tearing into rotting trunks with precision, its long, barbed tongue darting out like a whip. You might catch a glimpse of it flying low between trees, a black flash with a scarlet crown, disappearing as quickly as it came. It doesn't sing, but its rolling call, cree, cuts through the forest like a cry from another age. Here's a fun fact. The black woodpecker inspired countless European myths. Some called it the spirit of the forest. Others believed it was a messenger between worlds. In ancient folklore, its drumming was said to awaken spring itself, a rhythm of renewal echoing through the woods. At dusk, when mist gathers between the trunks and the air smells of pine and rain, that sound begins again. Slow, steady, timeless. It's not just a bird marking its territory. It's the forest reminding us it's still alive. The black woodpecker doesn't build for fame or fear. It builds because that's what the wild does. Creates, shapes, and leaves beauty behind for everything that follows. Imagine a bird that looks like a woodpecker, hisses like a snake, and can twist its neck like something out of a horror movie. Sounds made up, right? Welcome to the strange world of the Eurasian wryneck, one of the weirdest little birds in Romania's forests. At first it seems ordinary enough, brown, mottled, and shy. You could mistake it for a handful of bark if it stayed still. But when it feels threatened, that's when the show starts. The wryneck stretches its neck, turns its head almost all the way around, and hisses loudly while flicking its tongue like a reptile. The goal? To scare predators away. And it works. Even snakes back off. Despite its eccentric moves, this bird is a close relative of the woodpecker. But unlike its hammering cousins, the wryneck doesn't drill holes in trees. Instead, it uses abandoned woodpecker nests, a polite tenant rather than a builder. It spends its days on tree trunks and branches, inching along with soft, jerky movements as it hunts its favorite meal. Ants. Lots and lots of ants. It flicks its sticky tongue into anthills with lightning speed, sometimes hundreds of times a minute. Each motion is silent and efficient, the mark of a bird built entirely for precision. It may look awkward, but it's an insect-eating machine. Here's a fun fact. The Eurasian wryneck got its name from an old superstition. People once believed that its strange neck twisting could cast spells or ward off evil spirits. In medieval Europe, it was even called jinx, from which the word jinx, meaning a curse, actually comes. Yes, this bird literally inspired a word that still haunts our vocabulary. In Romania, spotting one is rare, since it prefers quiet woodlands and blends almost perfectly with tree bark. But if you ever see one twist its neck and glare at you, don't worry, it's not cursed. It's just doing what it does best, being delightfully weird. The Eurasian wryneck reminds us that not all beauty screams for attention. Sometimes it hisses, twists, and hides, a living echo of nature's stranger side. When night falls over the Carpathian Mountains and the forest turns to shadow, a sound rolls through the dark like distant thunder. A deep, echoing hoo-hoo that makes every creature pause. That's the voice of the Eurasian Eagle-Owl, Europe's largest and most powerful owl, and Romania's undisputed ruler of the night. This bird is massive. Its wings span nearly 6 feet, and its orange eyes glow like twin lanterns in the dark. Perched on a cliff or broken pine, it sits motionless, a silent statue of feathers and focus. Then, without warning, it drops from its perch, wings spread wide, and glides through the trees with absolute silence. No rustle, no sound, only the shadow moves. The eagle-owl hunts with precision. Foxes, rabbits, even other birds fall prey to its strength. Its talons can crush with the power of a small wolf's bite. And yet, when it lands, it's pure grace. Every motion is smooth, every turn exact, like night itself taking form. Romania's rugged cliffs, deep valleys, and ancient forests make the perfect kingdom for this nocturnal monarch. It nests in remote crags, far from humans, returning to the same spot year after year. For centuries, shepherds and villagers have told stories about hearing its call, sometimes seen as a warning, sometimes a blessing from the spirits of the mountains. Here's a fun fact. The Eurasian eagle-owl's eyes are so large they can't move in their sockets. To look around, it must turn its whole head, nearly 270 degrees. That, combined with its silent flight and infrared-level night vision, makes it one of nature's most effective predators. At dawn, when mist curls through the valleys, the owl retreats to its rocky throne, feathers glowing faintly in the fading light. It closes those fire-orange eyes and the forest exhales, safe again, at least until sunset. The Eurasian eagle-owl isn't just a hunter. It's a legend written in silence, a living reminder that even in darkness, there is majesty, watching, waiting, and utterly alive. If the forest had a soul that could rise into the sky and sing, it would sound like this. The Eurasian skylark doesn't dazzle with color or size. It's small, brown, and easy to overlook on the ground. But once it takes off, the world changes. From the green meadows of Romania to the open plains of Transylvania, the skylark lifts straight into the air, higher and higher, wings fluttering fast. It climbs until it's nothing but a dot against the blue. And then it sings, not for seconds, not for minutes, sometimes for nearly an hour without stopping. A waterfall of notes, bright and endless, tumbling from the sky. While most birds sing from branches, the skylark sings in flight. It's the only way it knows how. Music born of motion, joy woven into wind. And down below, shepherds, travelers, and dreamers have listened for centuries, calling it the voice of morning. Because when you hear that song, even the loneliest field feels alive again. But here's the magic. There's no audience, no performance. The skylark sings because it must, for territory, for love, for the simple thrill of being alive in a sky big enough to hold its voice. It's a reminder that sometimes beauty doesn't need to be seen, only heard and felt. Here's a fun fact. The skylark's song is so complex that it can include more than 300 distinct phrases. Composers from Beethoven to Vaughan Williams wrote music inspired by it. Even soldiers during World War I said hearing a skylark song over the trenches made them believe, if only for a moment, that peace was still possible. As it finally glides back to earth, the notes fade, one by one, into the whisper of grass. The song ends, but something stays with you, a lightness you can't quite explain. The Eurasian skylark doesn't just sing to be heard, it sings to remind the world that freedom, no matter how small, can still rise and fill the sky. From the thunder of eagles over the Danube to the whisper of skylarks above the fields, Romania's skies hold stories older than time. Each feather, each song, each wing beat reminds us that this land, at the heart of Europe, is still wild, still alive, still singing. We've seen beauty in all its forms, power in the white-tailed eagle, mystery in the black stork, grace in the crane, and hope in the tiny voice of the skylark. Together, they paint a portrait of a country where nature doesn't just exist, it breathes. In a world that moves too fast, these birds remind us to pause, to look up, and to listen. Because sometimes the most extraordinary things aren't hidden in faraway jungles or oceans, they're right above us, waiting to be noticed. So tell me, which of Romania's wild wings captured your heart today? Was it the hunter, the singer, or the dancer? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your favorite. And if you believe the sky still has stories worth telling, stay with us, because this is only the beginning of the journey.